Hi, my name is Matthew Parsons, realtor with Keller Williams, and in addition to being a realtor, I'm also an adoptive father through the foster care system. And one of the things that I love to do is highlight different ministries and different things in the Knoxville area that help in the mission to help kids find homes and help to reunite families that are having trouble, and allowing foster parents to step up and take over and help people watch their kids essentially during that time, as it were. And we'll talk a little bit more about what the purpose is with foster care. Anyway, so today I am here with Leslie Holmes of ChildHelp, and now ChildHelp is a national organization, but this is their local organization. And so, Leslie, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. I appreciate this.
Absolutely. Now, really quick, am I correct in that this is a national organization?
Absolutely. ChildHelp actually has several different entities. Fostering is only one part of that. We have a national hotline that's for anyone facing abuse or any kind of situation where you needed help. There's a 24-hour hotline that is manned constantly by qualified counselors. We have advocacy centers both here in Knoxville and other places as well.
Okay. Now, what exactly is an advocacy center?
Advocacy center is where if there's a question of abuse, if there has been a report of abuse and there needs to be interviews to take place, there might need to be some forensic type interviews. So the advocacy center is where that child will go. And we in Knoxville, we have a wonderful ChildHelp Children's Center there that is less intrusive to the child. It's there to hopefully not further traumatize that child by being able to just have one interview and all of the investigators and any of those that are involved in the investigation can see and do this at one time, rather than having that child tell this story over and over and over again.
Well, and I would assume too that it's in a more child-friendly environment with people who are
trained and know exactly what they're doing. Yes. Okay. And then, of course, we are the foster side, and we are a foster family agency, and of course are looking and recruiting families that would be willing to become foster parents.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that actually we were setting up the cameras and all that kind of stuff earlier, and we were talking about some different age groups and different people. Now, obviously, anybody who feels like they're being called to help with foster care, we would encourage them to get in touch with ChildHelp or another foster care agency. I'm also involved with a group called CAFCAM. If you go there, you can find out all the different classes that are being offered in any particular month with the different foster care agencies, and obviously ChildHelp is one of them. And
absolutely,
obviously encourage that. But we were talking earlier about age groups, and there was one particular age group that I was saying, and I think you were in some agreement, and I think it lines up a little bit with your own personal story. So tell me a little bit about your personal story, and hopefully it'll speak to some of the people out there.
Sure. Well, my husband and I always felt that we would foster and adopt. We were getting older and realized, we had not fulfilled what we felt like the Lord had called us to do. And actually, I was a school teacher at the time, and there were two teenage girls that were in my classes or in the school, and so we had not been really until that point open to teenagers. But I knew these girls and felt like it was, when a child gets to be a teenager, there's not a line of people waiting to adopt them or to foster them like we see with babies. And I knew these girls and loved them already, and so we brought them into our home. And we were older at that point. That's been 13 years ago now. So we weren't young necessarily, but we didn't know that maybe God would continue that calling in our life. We had 5 children. We had 3 biological children. At that point, we had 5 teenagers in our home. It was crazy. And
it was crazy, or you were crazy?
Both. Yeah, you got to be a little crazy.
There you go. Absolutely.
So we didn't know that we weren't finished. But later on, God showed us. Again, I was teaching school, and there were four students that had been in foster care for a while, and actually they were being fostered through ChildHelp. That's how I came to know about ChildHelp. And just amazing, lovable kids, and they needed a permanent home. And again, that was 6.5 years ago. So I was in my late 40s, my husband already in his early 50s, and so it was not an easy decision. Right. To think, okay, do we have the energy, and do we have what it takes at this point? But we had already been through fostering and adopting older children. We knew the struggles, we knew the joys, the struggles, all of the mixed bag, so to speak, that is involved in fostering and adopting an older child. Mm-hmm. And so we felt like we were good candidates for that, because we knew these children needed a place, and we felt the Lord just clearly told us that this was something that we needed to do, and have never looked back and regretted it. We are always feel that they were meant to be in our home.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of it too. So I've got these younger kids in my home right now, and there's a little bit of hesitancy on my part. But by the same token, I also know that by the time that my kids are older, I've already been through some teenagers. Mm-hmm. And the fact is that somebody who is on the verge or is an empty nester has a level of life experience that is going to be perfect for fostering a teenager. And I think that we really do kind of miss something in reaching out to those people and saying, hey, listen, you guys have been there and done that, right? You guys have more experience than anyone else. And that experience can be vital in helping these kids through this tough time. And here's the other part so the other thing is if you if you foster a teenager, the time commitment is actually a little bit less, right? If a 15-year-old comes into your home, theoretically you're making a 3-year commitment instead of a baby being an 18-year commitment.
Very true.
So there is that to it as well. And hopefully there will be a relationship, and hopefully you will have the opportunity to become more than just a bed for them. But hopefully you'll be able to speak into their lives for the rest of their lives. Which is an incredible thing. So kudos to you guys for doing that. So.
Well, thank you. And the blessing is ours. Mm-hmm. People are always saying how blessed our children are, and I just can't help but turn that around and say, no, we're the ones that are blessed because of them. Mm-hmm. And they've been a huge blessing. All of our children are. And I want to say too that I totally agree that empty nesters are still just a wonderful group to draw from for this ministry, because they have had so much experience parenting, and they are, they maybe have a little more time, and maybe have a little more freedom to invest, and so if you're an empty nester and you're considering that. Then you are still viable. You're still useful. I think all of the parenting experiences that we had, was something that we drew from as we brought other children into our home. Another question, Matthew, that people ask a lot is, how does it affect your biological children? I'm sure you have heard that many times.
Right.
And I have found, we have 3 biological children. Our oldest is 31, and then that's our son, who is 31, and then we have boy-girl twins that are 28. I have never seen anything but positives come from this in their life. Were there times when they might have said, oh my goodness, what have we done? Like all of us probably did at one time or another, because it is stressful, it's hard, there's so much adjustments, but the way our family has always looked at it is that we move over, we make room. That's just what you do. That's what we do for children who need us. We move over and we make room. And looking at them and hearing them talk now as adults, I just feel like that it's such a blessing to hear just that own realization of a calling in their own lives to see children provided for, whether or not as they grow and marry and have children of their own, wonderful, but they have a burden for that. and they are definitely, aware of the needs.
Right.
And,
Well, and I've always said what happens is this. I think we, and I won't even say in our culture today, because I really do think it's a human problem, and that is a problem of basically being self-centered. We
Right.
put ourselves at the center of the universe, and that is exacerbated even more within the younger kids, right? You're a young kid, all you're caring about is, when do I
Yes.
eat? When do I get this? When do I get that? And what I've discovered is that foster care flips a little bit of a switch in my own biological kids' minds about where the priority lies. We had some foster kids come in just for a night at our house, and I saw my other kids rally to make these kids feel as loved and as comfortable as possible in just the short period of time
Yeah.
that they were there, and really just kind of open up their arms, and it became not about my kids, it became about them, and that shifted their mindset. And I think that honestly, foster care is one of the best things that not only I could have done for other people's families, right? People who are trying to get their
Yes.
lives back together, but it's one of the best things I could have ever done for my family.
I could not agree more. We are just in this very selfie generation,
Right.
where we're all about what's happening to me. We're all about, just being about self. And there's nothing, I think, like you've said so beautifully, Matthew, there's just nothing that can teach our children to look outside yourself, to be able to see the needs. And something that I have thought about recently too is just this phrase of being called. And yes, I do believe it's a calling, but I hear many times someone say, I'm not called to this. And I think those that are saying, I'm not called to this, does that excuse and totally alleviate the responsibility that we all have to children?
Right.
And my thought is no.
Right.
We have to take care of our children.
Yeah.
The children are helpless and are victims, and we as a society and furthermore as believers have to come alongside children and be able to provide for them and take care of them. And so whether or not it is in the realm of bringing children into your home, sure, not everybody is able and equipped to do that, but are we all able to come alongside it in some way to help provide for those children? Absolutely. And so that's something that I really love to be able to educate people about. There's something that you could do.
Yeah. So along those lines, all right, so let's dive into, all right, so we've been on our soapboxes. So let's talk about practically, what can people do? Well, first off, what specifically does the foster care branch of ChildHelp do? Here, let's say locally within Knoxville. What do you guys do, when it comes to foster care? And then we'll talk a little bit about how does a person get involved, even obviously sign up to be a foster parent, but even beyond that, for
Sure.
people who aren't called.
Well, ChildHelp, let me go back.
Okay.
A child is going to come into custody through DCS.
Okay.
That is, every child in the state of Tennessee is going to have been removed from the home through Child Protective Services and come into DCS custody. And DCS is always involved, but when they do not have a home, which, many of us, DCS along with all the private agencies, are all in need of more homes because children are coming in at a more rapid rate than we've seen in the past. So
Can I just,
Yeah.
why, do you know what it is, or do you have a guess what it is, or you wouldn't even like to speculate?
well, I think probably the opioid crisis has definitely caused some of that influx of children coming into care. I mean, just more addictions, more neglect because of those addictions.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely has played a part
Okay.
in seeing those numbers rise. So a child comes into custody through DCS, and like I said, DCS will always be involved, but when DCS does not have a home, then they're going to call private agencies, and they will call us and say, we have, this situation, these children that need a home and need a foster parent. We typically get calls more for a sibling group.
Okay.
Or that teenager, possibly a pregnant teenager, calls that where maybe there's not as many homes ready and willing to take that kind of placement.
Okay.
A call for a little baby is generally DCS will have
Sure.
a home for that call, and so we get those calls maybe that are a little bit more difficult to place, not necessarily because of behavior, just because maybe the number of children. Obviously, DCS, ChildHelp, all of the agencies want to keep that sibling group together if possible.
Right. Okay. All right. So yeah, so ChildHelp then, that's the foster care branch. You guys help make these placements possible, and usually they're somewhat more difficult in terms of not
Number
standard.
of children.
How about this? Not standard.
Yes.
Right. You know,
Yeah.
everybody loves babies.
Yeah.
Right. I have a friend who volunteers down at Children's Hospital. Everybody wants to cuddle the preemies and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
And, you know, teenagers, those are hard. So, or those are perceived as being
difficult.
being
Yeah.
more difficult. Yeah.
But that many times is not the case. I
Sure.
mean, all of the children that come into custody are going to have behaviors related to their trauma.
Sure.
You can't go through all that our kids have gone through and not have some things that are gonna demonstrate themselves. They have been through abuse, neglect, trauma,
Right.
possibly sexual abuse, many things that any of us as adults would absolutely fold,
Right.
you know, having
Right.
to go through that.
Right.
And so it's our job as adults to come alongside them and help them heal from that trauma. That is all of our desire.
Okay. So if I wanted to be a foster parent with ChildHelp, what does that look like? Number one, what do I have to do to make it happen? And then number two, what happens once I actually become a foster parent?
Well, what we do now is have initially an informational meeting. It's a little bit less commitment than it used to be. It used to be just the orientation into PATH classes, which is what one would have to go through in order to become a foster parent. So initially you would sign up to come to an informational meeting, a couple of hours where all of those burning questions that you've had for some time can be answered and addressed, and then at that time we kind of go over the plan, which is to go through the PATH classes. Those are classes on discipline. We have classes on cultural awareness, and then we also have a panel where they're able to ask other foster parents or maybe foster kids who have grown up as a foster child, you know, just to be able to ask some question and answer time. We talk about also what it's like to work with the legal system, you know, about the child welfare system and how it is to work with that. That's where we do in this area of ministry. Really, we are doing shared parenting. You were sharing role with the birth parent, with the foster parent, and then with the legal parent.
Right.
So that's not always an easy dynamic.
Right.
And so we go over all those things. So it takes a couple of months to finish that. Then a home study is written that is like a small book about that couple, about their relationships, about just their life, really.
Yeah.
And what brought them to that wanting to foster, all of the things that we would check out as far as like just to make sure they were a safe home, all of the fingerprinting and background checks. I mean, after all, we're putting children in their home, so all of those things have to be in line and positive as well.
Okay. So you go through that, you get approved. What happens next?
And then, according to what you have told us, is your desire as far as, you know, just like we were talking about earlier, the birth order and some of those things that are important to you as a foster parent, we try to respect that. I mean, we understand too that maybe you only have that one bedroom, and so we're going to have to find a scenario that fits into that. So basically, it's a waiting game after that, where we get referrals, and then we think about who we might have that would be a good fit for that referral. And then the child, we would call and say, hey, this is what scenario we have. And then that foster parent would say, yes, that's something that I think would work for us. And then pretty immediately after the child or children would be placed.
Or they can say no.
Oh, most
I mean,
definitely.
right? I mean, that's part of it
Yeah.
too, right? Sometimes maybe it's
The timing may not be right.
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, you know what? We are literally packing right now to go out of town for 10 days. You
Yes.
know, and as much as I would love to step up and help, I'm just unable to. Or hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I've prayed about it, and there's just whatever. I have an uneasiness about this situation, or
Yeah.
it's outside of what we wanted. So people have the opportunity to say no. It's not like you're
Absolutely.
locked in, and hey, they call you up, and you got to make it happen. So
And you know, I mean, we just respect that. I have seen that happen here where, you know, several calls are made and the foster parent said, you know, that's not the right scenario for us. And we respect that. I mean,
Right.
it is a mutual decision that, and we tell them as we teach PATH, you know, that's okay. You can say no.
Right,
It's all right.
right.
And even if someone got through the PATH class and decided, you know, this is not for me, better to really stop the train at that point
Right.
than to take children
Right.
and discover, you know what, this is not really what I had in mind.
Right, exactly. Well, hey, listen, right? You know, I always, you know, I'll tell people, listen, we've just, you know, we've got a house under contract. But guess what? Until you hit that closing table, it's not a done deal, right?
Yes.
And so, marriage, right? Listen, you're engaged, right? But if something pops up that's a red flag, right? You haven't gotten there, right?
Yeah.
It's better to run away from the altar than make a mistake that's gonna, you know, you're
That's
gonna have
gonna
to
be
live with for the rest of your
costly.
life,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, well, good. I'm glad to see that, you know, every step of the way people have opportunities to do a gut check and assess.
You
and
know,
say,
the foster parent, the prospective foster parent is assessing whether they have the qualities and the, you know, the personality that is geared toward this
Sure.
particular
Sure.
ministry.
Sure.
And then we as an agency are assessing as well. Do you have the space? Do you have the time? Do you have the ability? I mean, you know, even though a financial stipend is provided for those that are fostering, the foster parents still have to be financially secure
Right.
in that they're not going to rely on this to help
Right.
make ends meet,
yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah, if that stipend disappeared, would they still have a home?
Right.
yeah, absolutely. Gotcha. So there are different options for somebody who wants to get into foster
Yes.
care. And you mentioned earlier that DCS, every child comes in through DCS. So if I'm a prospective foster parent, why would I perhaps consider ChildHelp instead of through the DCS route? Is there a difference?
There is a difference. I mean, as far as what you're being provided financially, I would say it's comparable. I think probably what I feel that ChildHelp really excels in is just that the support to those foster families. Obviously, when children are coming into DCS, they're going to have a heavy caseload. I mean, and it's not their fault. They are just overloaded. And so I don't think, well, I can't say that there are wonderful social workers
Oh,
within
yeah.
the Department of Children's
Oh yeah,
Services.
we've had some really great ones.
And
And we've had people that we didn't connect with.
right. And so I think probably what you can count on though at ChildHelp is just the case managers being there for you. You will always have someone that you're able to reach at 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Right.
We tend, because we're smaller, it's very personal to us. We get very involved with our families. We offer a lot of activities that are family bonding experiences that we hope to help with that transition of just bonding and having some time to to get to know and connect with those children. We really want to help with that.
Right.
We probably make a little more of an investment, I think, in that area because that's just what we are called to do here.
Well, and you're able to, right? I was having a conversation with a DCS worker yesterday. I said, "What's your caseload?" And he said, "I got 20 kids." You know,
Yeah.
and that includes at least a couple that are out of state where he has to go and follow up in Georgia to do that. And so that's the other thing that I think a lot of times people feel like they're going to get into foster care and poof, the support is gone. And that's not the case, right?
I really see this every single day, being here, working here. I couldn't be happier and more pleased with the job that our case managers do for their families. You know, that they love their families, they love their children, and and when I say their children, those case managers think of those children as that, you know, these are my kids.
Right.
We are going to all work together to give them the very best experience, the best possibilities that we can. And I see that every day. I see really the entire staff discussing issues and problems that might arise that we can help with. And we all want to be that kind of support to our foster families. Several of us here are fostered and adopted or have had fostering experiences. We know it's tough.
Right.
We know it's not an easy thing to do, and yet we know it's so important. And so we want to see them be able to ride out some of those rougher moments where you're shaking your head going, you know, what have I done?
Yeah.
We want to walk with them through that, because you will get on the other side of that.
Right. What's funny too is I had this thought is that there are going to be what have I done moments if you have a teenager who's a biological kid, right? Like there's no difference, right? It's like, what have I done? Wait a second, why did I do this? You know, what kind of mistake did I make 17 years ago?
Yes.
Whether they're biological or not. And that's, I love what you said too. I think saying that the caseworkers here, many of them, not all of them, right? But many of them have been foster parents themselves.
Yes.
And so my wife's actually in a training today, and she's going through a training to do that and help other foster parents. Whereas a lot of times I'll run up against caseworkers who are, you know, single guys or, you know, single women, and they haven't been there, done that. I love the idea that, again, in the same way that we talked about empty nesters being a great source, because they've been there and they've done that. They've been through the teenagers. They know how to roll with the punches. They know how to survive it, and not only that, but thrive within it.
Sure.
And have that wealth of experience. So I love that you guys do that. You know, have people here,
right,
to help
had
people
some
through the
experience,
journey.
right?
Yeah.
And even those that have not fostered and adopted had years of experience in the field and really understand trauma. I think that is probably another thing that we maybe sets us apart, is that we really want to help our foster parents understand trauma. We offer, I don't know if you've heard of the trust-based relational intervention, TBRI, Dr. Karen Purvis.
Yep.
Many of your listeners might have heard of her. And we offer that sort of training, actually require it of our foster parents, because we see that as so important. And honestly, if there's anything that I could change in seeing 13 years ago when we first brought in our two girls, I didn't understand trauma at that point. I didn't understand. I thought my traditional parenting and my parenting experience, you know, bring a child into my home, that's all they're going to need is a good home.
Oh yeah.
And you know, and true, that's certainly part of the equation, but that's not all of it. They're going to need to have help healing from that trauma. And I don't think my husband and I fully understood that at that point. And if I could go back, I would have gotten this training years ago. Actually, it wasn't even available back then. But at this point, I can say without a doubt, you need that training. And that's something that we offer, and feel like it's a valuable part of what we do here.
Okay, Leslie, for the people who, let's say, are not necessarily called to be foster parents and have kids come into their home, whether it's because of the season of life that they're in, or whether that's just not who they are. But we're all called to care for widow and orphans, and we want to do something to help. How do we get involved? How do we help? What's the call to action for them?
Well, there's several ways that I think you can support those that do this ministry. The first way I would say is, are there people in your church that are fostering, or friends in your neighborhood that are fostering? Can you come alongside them? We support we didn't come up with this, but a wraparound ministry where the WRAP stands for Wrestle in Prayer for that family. respite care, provide, go pick up those children and take them for an ice cream, or just to give that foster parent some relief.
Right.
The A would be acts of service. Bring that family a meal. Provide something like that tangible for them that is going to be of help to them, especially during those early months. It's just stressful. And then the P is promises of God, just to encourage them with that, with notes of encouragement. So those are very practical ways that if you even know of a foster family already, that you can help. As far as ChildHelp goes, we would love to have volunteers that there are things that they could do here. I think one of the things that we utilize a lot is Walmart gift cards, because when a child comes to us and they have nothing, we need to get them something right then, and the Walmart gift cards or something like that doesn't expire will be something that we would be able to give to that foster family to go out and buy pajamas and shoes or whatever that child needs. Another area is, we need to get the word out of how badly foster parents are needed. So if you would have me come and speak in your church, or speak to a class, or just be able to set up a table and give out information, that is a very powerful way of helping us as a ministry or as an organization.
Absolutely, and one of the things that you can do is, if you want to learn more about having or starting a RAP ministry, I don't know if ChildHelp has anything necessarily available on their website. I know that you would make that available, but if you go to cafcam.org,
yes,
we actually have a section, I think, in their resources or under the foster care section, where you can learn more about starting a RAP ministry, an organized, intentional effort within your church to support maybe families who are going through foster care and adoption. So yeah, the RAP ministry is a great way to go, and I love the idea of being able to help with ministries, the gift cards and all that kind of stuff.
Just immediate help.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing, again, we talk about the foster care and adoption community, and it is a community that consistently steps up whenever there's a call. Holy smokes.
Yes.
And there are all kinds of ministries out there, the Compassion Closets, the Fostering Hopes, all those ministries that are providing, bags and toiletries and the Forgotten Initiative, and all these people who are providing tools and resources as well. So it's an amazing community to become a part of.
Most definitely.
It's an Isaiah community, right? Where the idea is the Lord said, "Who shall I send?" Right? And it's just a bunch of people stepping up saying, "Here am I, Lord, send me." That's really what it is. And it's great to be a part of that.
In our weakness and in our
right. Oh yeah. I had somebody. We were talking about foster care and adoption recently, and I made the comment that there was a group of us. This is 12, 13 years ago or whatever. There was a group of us within the church, and my wife and I were amongst the first to adopt and do foster care. And then there was a whole slew of people who began doing the process afterwards. And I'm absolutely convinced, because when they saw us do it, they thought to themselves, well, shoot, if they can do it, right? if they can do it, we can do it, right?
There's nothing that makes you feel more aware of your own flaws than foster care.
Yeah, exactly. One woman, we were walking into church one day, and this woman goes, and we ended up somehow doing this kind of duckling thing where I was walking and my kids are all trailing behind me, and she goes, "Oh, you are the picture of Jesus." She said that, and I said, "Lady, you didn't see us 10 minutes ago. I was threatening to kill a kid," right? As we got ready for church. We've all gotten ready for church. We know what a nightmare that usually is.
Yes.
And, she's like, "You're the picture of Jesus." And it's humbling.
It's
humbling. And, you can't have any airs of, "Hey, look at me, look how good I am," man. You're just like white knuckling it, doing the best that you can.
Yes.
And understanding that it's nothing but by the grace of God that you are, being able to, blessed to do it and blessed to speak into their lives.
And, too, luckily our children are full of grace, towards us. Mm-hmm. We have to show them grace as well, but I'm so grateful for the grace that our children have shown us when we're irritable or we just are human, and we make mistakes, and they're forgiving, very forgiving.
All right, so Leslie, thank you so much for joining us and sharing a little bit, again, about just a sneak peek, a snapshot into ChildHelp and foster care in general, and sharing a bit of your story. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And just a really quick wrapping up again, what are some of the ways that we can connect with ChildHelp, both online and then phone number again?
Well, you can find us on Facebook, ChildHelp Foster Family Agency of East Tennessee and Children's Center.
Okay.
And then also childhelp.org.
Okay.
Our phone number is 865-579-5498.
Okay.
And we would love
Yeah.
to speak with you.
And again, it's just just take that first step, right? That
Yeah.
tiny little step, reach out. Nobody's gonna bite, right? It's gonna be one of the most awesome, loving experiences you could walk into, whether or not it comes to completion and fruition with you being a foster parent, or whether, finding out how you can help and support the
Absolutely.
ministry. So thank you again, Leslie,
Thank
for your
you.
time. I'm Matthew Parsons, realtor with Keller Williams. Not only do I help people buy homes and sell homes here in Knoxville, Tennessee, but it's all about living well in Knoxville, Tennessee as well. And ChildHelp is one of the organizations that is making an impact in our community in a positive way. Thank you, and God bless.